All right, what's going on, everybody? I have my boy Nick Hadge on the show today. I'm so freaking pumped to have him on. We go back probably to, I think it was 2000, Springfield. I graduated 2016. We both did 16. So
we both did.
Right around that time, so 2015 area, I think we started to talk. And then right after we met, 2016, we graduated. We both started down at Equinox together. Pretty wild, couple years together. Nick competed at that point in 23 and under, junior world's strongest man, crushed it, won the 23 and under world's strongest man overall. At that point, I competed in my bodybuilding, so we kind of connected at that moment, both kind of going in our different directions, but the same type of end goal. So Nick's been awesome. He's competed for a while now. We'll go into a bit more, but someone that's inspired me, I've looked up to in a lot of ways, and just to do with such a positive mindset. So at this point, Nick, I want to welcome you to the show, man.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be here. I know we've been trying to plan this for a really long time, so I'm glad we can finally get underway.
Yeah, man, I'm super stoked, and it's crazy because I feel like we have so much in common. So it's been something I wanted to do for a while, and kind of going along those lines. The first question I got for you is, I want to keep this, strongman based, strength based, but I want to kind of see where you started. When did you start working out? When did you start getting into it? And kind of just tell me about that.
Yeah, so my original journey didn't involve strongman, to be honest. So growing up, I never really played sports. I never really had any interest in sports. My older brother, Zach, was the total opposite. He played literally every sport under the sun. He was super athletic. But not me. I honestly, I liked eating. I liked doing weird, I played the drums and weird stuff like that. I think I did karate at first, but no sports and not much physical activity. So I actually started my journey off as a weight loss journey. I think
really,
in the 7th grade, I was 230 pounds.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I was a big boy, and it was all right, let's start at least going to the gym. So it was legit, and I was afraid. I didn't know even what that meant. So I had 2 days a week was my start, and it was just go to the gym 2 days a week, and just kind of that's it. Start there. You just need a place to start. I didn't go all out. I didn't do anything crazy, but yeah. So that's the real start of it.
So you started there, and how old are you? You said how old? 7th grade?
Yeah, maybe 12, maybe
somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started there, and then as you started to get your feet wet, how did you kind of figure out what you were doing? You just kind of played around with things, or did you have someone that helped you kind of structure it? Was it just using the internet? What did you use to kind of start taking the steps to start getting that routine going more and more?
Good question. So I was always kind of spoiled growing up. So well, I guess there's actually. So before going to the gym, actually, I think this might even be where it really starts. My mom forced me into playing basketball.
Really?
She was like, Nick, you have to be physical. You have to do something that gets you to move. And I was actually super upset about it at the time. I was like, what? I
have to shoot this ball? What?
I was mad, but I remember actually getting to practice and actually loving it. So, but. And then when I started going to the gym 2 days a week, I was super spoiled. I had a personal trainer, and it was at a private strength and conditioning facility called EPS, Edge Performance Systems.
Okay.
Owned by Brian McDonough, and they work with a lot of the Patriots players, a lot of NHL players, a lot of really high level collegiate. Also high school athletes, but I just went there for personal training at first. But I've always had a coach, so I was totally spoiled. My dad is best friends with the owner, Brian, and my brother was already training there at the time for football. So they were already in the gym, and they were like, okay, we're going to bring you here. So right from the start, I had the guidance of a coach, which I know not many people have. So I've always been lucky in that sense, for sure.
So that obviously had a huge impact then on you of getting structure, getting routine, and so you weren't going through that as much of an experimental phase where you're just let's do chest day on Monday and all that stuff.
I've literally never gone through that phase in my life. So like it was a little bit of a culture shock when I got to college and see like all these like bros, because like I've basically been like an experiment my whole life. It's like I've been like a controlled experiment. Like I've had really good coaches and good guidance and direction. So yeah, to like see like people who actually have to go like off and kind of make some things up, and I've never gone through that. Like, so I have later in life that trial and error. So it took me like a couple like years to even get to that point. I've always had coaching.
Gotcha. So when did that transition? So now you're going into high school, you're going to college. When did you start into the strongman side of it? Like when did that, like, did you just jump right into it? Did you have someone that did Zach do it? Like how did you get introduced to that side of it?
A little bit of both. But I didn't just jump right into it in terms of not knowing what the sport was. So that place I was telling you about, EPS, I eventually started training there multiple times per week, and I got to high school and they were like, we're making you play football. So I was basically forced into playing football by like everyone around me because of my size. That's when I fell in love with the process of training itself. And then Zach went to college, found the sport of strongman. At that time, I was still in high school playing football, and he was like, "Hey, this is amazing." So I already knew when I was in high school, I was like, "Okay, after this, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do strongman." But that being said, my first competition, I think I was maybe 16 years old or something. It was the 231 open men weight class, and I think like 4 out of the 5 events, it was my first time ever even touching them. So like you just got to jump into some things like that. Like I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have that much experience because I was still in high school playing football. So I had to kind of like wait for it a little bit. And then once the wait was over, I got to college. I got accepted to Springfield College. I was able to pursue that path.
So if we go back to that first competition, so obviously you're nervous. It's like your first time doing it. I would assume so anyway. But how did it end up going? Was it one of those you placed like last in because you've never done it, or was it like what was that experience like the first time?
I didn't place last, which was kind of crazy to me.
Right.
I was nervous, but I was also like having so much fun. It was my brother, a lot of my buddies.
So good atmosphere.
Lightning Fitness one. Yeah, it was a situation where it's like if you're having fun, you don't realize what you're capable of doing or what you're doing if you just kind of like vibe in the moment and just let it be. So
Right.
I still have pictures I can pull up. It's crazy to look back, but yeah, I mean, I did max effort on everything that day, and it was just so much fun.
And then you were hooked at that point.
Honestly, no, I don't even remember feeling hooked after that. I don't know.
Really?
I don't think I was really hooked in strongman until I don't know my first moment. I don't remember my first moment.
Yeah. So you didn't have that like this is it moment.
It's because you have different phases of it. Like you have different phases of like you fall in love with it different times for different reasons. So it's
Right.
like at first I was like, oh my god, like I just love doing it. And then at another point it's like, all right, now I think I could be good at this. And then like you fall in love with that. And then it's like, okay, then you get good at it, and then it's like, all right, well, now I think I can really compete at like the top end, and if it never ends up being the best, I think that I can still better myself in some sort of way, and that's a bang, endless rabbit hole. There you go. So
you like, just, yeah, I mean, it's like you have to love the process. Like you have to, like if you don't enjoy the process of the training, you know, the hours and hours in the gyms, the prep up to it, the movement prep, the recovery.
And it's crazy because the different levels of strongman require different processes. Like I was just saying, it's like when you're just starting off, you can't be obsessed with being the best in the world. You have to like be obsessed with the fact that like, you know, you're there, you're participating, and it's kind of like the deeper you get into the sport, the things that you have to appreciate become different.
Yeah. So how big of a impact do you think Zach was, like whether it was a motivator, a supporter, in the journey of like starting to compete more and more, like kind of pushing yourself, I'm assuming, back and forth in the gym, because it's obviously got to be a part of it.
It's honestly, I wouldn't. I don't even know what I would. I don't even know if I would have found Strongman without Zach. So Zach found Strongman. He went to Springfield College. He was on the powerlifting team. Him
Team
and
Iron
Rob.
Sports, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, that was something different.
We created that.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Not me specifically, but I was the first class of like people.
Gotcha.
I was the freshman of like the seniors who made it. The
Yep.
seniors and juniors. Ethan Grossman was on the bodybuilding, and then
Was Kearney there at that time?
Rob Kearney was the powerlifting side, and they like merged worlds into no longer, because it used to be powerlifting and bodybuilding, and then they merged it into Team Iron Sports.
Gotcha.
But like before then, Rob Kearney and my brother, they did a powerlifting meet together. They were like temporary powerlifters for a little bit, and then they went off and found Strongman. And then if Zach didn't like meet Rob, and like I'm not sure if I would have found Strongman. So, and then me and Zach trained together. So Zach and I played high school football together, and that's when we fell in love with the training process. But like we trained together as well, so we became like we developed that training duo early in high school, and then we basically in college found like another sport to continue that. So it's like it kind of just happened naturally. Like we didn't even have to think twice about it.
So tell me about. So I have to say it's like one of my favorite pictures. Tell me about Junior World Strongest Man. You're 23 and under. You got big baby, what they call it. You got the beast of the Iron Baby. BB. I'm thinking of like two different guys.
I like where you're going with that one though. That's a good one.
Yeah. So tell me about that experience. You're out there. You got arguably, I mean, pound for pound, that dude's a straight monster. You got your brother out there in the USA. Like, I remember was that your first time, like, full USA represent?
Yeah, so my brother was there for support. So I had to win junior nationals to qualify.
Yeah.
So that's how I got like my spot as the American representative. Iron BB, who represents, I think, currently Canada. Yeah, he was competing there. But Paul Smith took second that year. But Tom Staltman, he's the character. It was me and Tom Staltman going neck and neck the whole time. And it was just an honor to be able to compete with him, just because I think Tom Staltman will win World's Strongest Man one day. The Staltman brothers are out of Scotland. Tom is a monster. So Junior Worlds was a 3-day event. On day 1, I was in first place. After day 2, Tom was in first place. And then it was like, okay, Nick versus Tom. Like, Tom is currently, I believe, 25 or 26 years old. 6'8", 370 to 380 pounds.
It's insane.
With a 6-pack abs and like a size 18 shoe.
It's like Thor-esque.
When I first saw him, he didn't really fit getting out of the elevator.
That's insane.
So I think he just has so much potential. He's young and he's literally a dinosaur, and he's a great athlete, great person. So it was me and him going neck and neck the whole time. And then what it came down to was I was in second place and he was in first place going into the last event. And it was like 2 cars angled towards each other. And it was a car deadlift hold for time.
I remember this. It's one of my favorite picture video of you.
Dude. So before all that, I remember Glenn Ross, the guy who holds it all, like took the top 5 and like behind the tent and gave us all a hug and a speech. And was like, any of you could become the world champion today. And like, it was like super emotional, but it came down to me and Tom, and you have deadlift straps. So you're strapped into the car and you have to just pick it up and hold it for time. So it's weird. It's like almost like a pain tolerance thing. It's like not necessarily grip. It's like maybe my shoulders are going to pop out. Maybe I don't even know. It's like my spine. It's a weird sensation when you're strapped in, but you still have to hold it for time.
Right.
But yeah, Tom dropped the car, and I was still like in the zone while he did it, but like I knew it happened. I just didn't let go of the car. I don't even know I was in a trance.
Yeah.
And then I like opened my eyes and realized it and just started bawling my eyes out crying, like still locked out with the car in my hand. And I just remember, I don't even know what I was saying. I just remember screaming like something at
Just
the top.
hyped, man. Just like pure emotion.
Yeah. Because I knew that was it right there. It was like I was the junior world champion. And yeah, it's one of the best memories. It's hard to say what the best memory in my strongman career has been, just because I've gone through a lot. I've been competing for 9 years, and I've had a lot of great memories. But certainly that's up there, top three. So yeah, that was
Yeah. I mean, I
my
can't
my
imagine.
my mom, my dad, my brother, my family was there. So, and usually it's just like a mission for me and my brother to go out to compete with our coach, maybe. But my family was there to see it, and yeah, it was, and that is what really got me kicked off to my strongman career. Because after that, Ultimate Strongman invited me back to their shows overseas every year, and those are fun because it's like, okay, I'm like getting invited to go compete with Big Z and like Mateusz Kielakowski and Shivlikov, and I'm like competing with the big dogs now, and like all the guys you see on World's Strongest Man, like Martin Slices, the current World's Strongest Man, like I got to compete more with him. I met him back earlier a few years prior, but so that got me into the international circuit, which made it so I didn't necessarily have the need or the drive to compete in the American circuit, which means I didn't get my pro card in America. So you have to do these very specific shows in America to get your pro card. And for those shows, you pay for flight, you pay for hotel, and the whole vibe to the show is a little bit different. But I would get these invitation only invites to these shows in Europe where they pay for flight and hotel, and I get to compete with the top in the game. So I've been just taking that road for the past few years, just competing
I don't blame
internationally.
you.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm like technically still an amateur in America, even though like I've been competing internationally with all
Like
like the top.
monsters. Yeah.
But that's kind of how the road took me. Winning the junior world championship got me all these international invites, and that's kind of how it started.
So then you've been competing international a ton. I mean, for the most part, and then obviously so before we touch base on the most recent event, you've competed with your brother representing the U.S. a couple of times, right?
3 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely friggin' it's unreal. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
because that's the thing.
Well,
It's like
actually, not even just international. A couple of years ago, we both got the invitation to Giants Live,
that's what
which
it
is
was. Yep.
which is the World's Strongest Man qualifier. So that was an American show, and that was cool. It's like run around with an American flag and like represent your country, and then go like do your sport. It's
Right.
such the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember that was the first time you competed with not first but 23 and under, that big win, and then you going in competing with Zach, and then so obviously you've been successful with it. So most recently though, you were competing with Zach, and you had that big setback, that big injury. So if you can kind of, because I think a lot of people can relate to a different scale, right? For you, it's the strongman, big injury, that's your life, that's your career. But other people go through a lot of other injuries. Oh yeah, that's wild.
Hard to see with the lighting, but
Yeah, but no, you can see the swelling and all that stuff.
yeah.
So a lot of people I think go through a tons of up and downs, whether maybe at a smaller scale, maybe at a different thing. If you go back to that day, like obviously, tell me what you're thinking when it happens, and then kind of your mindset moving forward now, because and where your mind's at, and trying to get back to where you are, and kind of the process.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure. When it happened, I had no doubt in my mind that it happened. It didn't hurt, which threw me off. That was the only thing that threw me off. It didn't give me any pain. The only pain that I felt was like the night of the surgery was just painful. But
Yeah.
the injury itself. So my distal bicep tear, my tendon tore completely off my bone. My bicep rolled up my arm. When it happened, I knew what that sound meant because unfortunately I've seen in person the same thing happen to other people. And it's weird. There was like an immediate like disconnect from my arm to my brain. It was the weirdest thing because I'm also super sensitive, like neurologically, and I'm like very intuitive with my body from like a sensory standpoint from training. Immediately when it happened, my arm just kind of dropped by my side as if like I lost Bluetooth connection. That's like the only way I can like put it.
No,
It's
that
like,
makes sense. Like it just wouldn't do anything.
yeah, it was just like, oh, like you are no longer online. It's like, where did my right arm go? It's not with us anymore.
Right.
And then I saw some dimpling, and I was like, all right, like my brain was like, don't move it. And it was weird because it was like an immediate feeling of acceptance. I walked up to my brother, and I was just like, I'm sorry, man, we're done. I was like, that's all I could say. It's like, I'm sorry because we had to pull out of the show, and we were tied for third place going into our two best events. And me and him had the best training of our lives leading up to that competition. Yeah, it's me and him. We started off our whole training journey training together, and life takes you different directions. At like a couple points of our training career, me and Zach weren't training together, whether it be schedule or different program, different competition. But for this competition, for the first time in years, we got to train together every friggin' time. It's like we have the same show, the same program. So it was really special for me and him to be able to do that together. So kind of for all that to just come to an end in the middle of one of my best events, because it happened during a tire flip, which they changed the night before. It was supposed to be yoke walk. And they were
Gotcha.
like, oh, the yokes fell off the lorry, which means the yokes fell off the truck. And we don't
Just
we're
lost the
like,
yokes.
yeah, and it's like, all right, like, but we just so happen to have these 400-kilo tires on hand. So, which isn't a heavy tire, 880 pounds. It's honestly not a heavy tire for me, but on the first rep, during my transition from popping it to my shoulders to my hands, uh, it just came off my shoulders too early, and at one point it was in my hands all at once, and took seemingly nothing and just popped, and it just everything ended right there. And it's kind of weird. I knew what happened, and it was kind of like dark, but I was like, all right, I'm done for a while, and you can even see it in the video. Like kind of weird, but I'm just kind of like aimlessly walking around the field, like the athlete field where like everyone's competing, and just like looking around like aimlessly. But I'm really just taking it all in because it's like I don't know when I'm going to see this next. Like I just want to like look into the crowd one more time, like look into the lights, and like I want to just like be on the field a little bit longer.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy, man. And then I think your brother at that point, did what he could. He was like, all right, let's fucking go. I'll do what I can.
He went for broke. It was insane. It's hard for me to watch that because it's like, yo, I just tore my bicep so easy doing that, and now I see my brother like max effort. So for me, it's like, oh my god, I don't want to see him do the same thing right now. So at that point, I was just like, yo, this is insane, but like fucking stop. I was like, I like wanted him to stop.
Well, I'm sure you want to help too. You're like, fuck, man. Like,
dude, at that point, I didn't even want to help. It's like I knew, like I said, acceptance. I knew what happened, and it like hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I know what this means. I was like, I am done for a while, no matter how fast I recover, no matter what it is. And it's like, I don't know if it's like, yeah.
It's a pretty common injury though in strongman. You see it a lot.
Oh, it's the most common. It's the most common injury. So it's funny. The winning team, JF Corona and Christoph Radzikowski. Christoph has torn his bicep 7 times.
Wow.
That's
freaking crazy.
I don't want to mess it up. Poland. And he comes over to me, and he goes, "Let me see." He goes, "It's broke, but you will." He goes, but you will be fine. So it's like, oh, like,
it's like a Russian thing. Where's he from?
I think Poland.
He's like, oh yes, you'll be fine. I see you next year.
So I knew But he didn't need to tell me that. I knew.
Right. I mean, the thing
Literally,
is,
like,
though,
I knew so badly. I like needed to look into the crowd one last time. Like it was
right.
like it was real, man. Like it was unemotionally real. Like I wasn't even emotionally upset in the time.
Right.
It was like sobering. It
It
was
was almost, yeah.
it was
Well, I don't think it
incredibly
even hits
sobering.
you yet, right? It didn't even like, it
Yeah,
doesn't really, it hits you, it's over, but at the same time, until you get home, you're not in the stadium, so you have to sit there
yeah.
and like, fuck.
Well, it kind of felt like the party was over. It kind of felt like I was in a haunted mansion and like the lights like got turned on. It was like wow, like everything is like a little bit like different looking right now. I don't know.
Right. Because the mindset flips like instantly.
Yeah, it's like I'm not where I thought I was. Bang. It's like
Yeah.
different reality for Nick in seconds.
So now you're at a point where you're in recovery. You've still been training to an extent. Like I still see videos you training. You're still doing what you can, working around the bicep. You know, I saw a video of you playing the drums like when you still shouldn't be. Like so, but like, so what's the process like now rehabbing wise? Are you just trying to work around the injury best you can?
So I can't keep myself out of the gym, especially I'm a personal trainer and I'm in the gym all the time. For a while it was just like, okay, let's see how big I can get my legs. And then it was like, all right, my legs are really sore. I need to like take a deload and maybe I need to switch up my style a little bit. I started to incorporate a little bit more upper body stuff. And I think I actually progressed myself a little bit too soon. I didn't re-injure anything, but I've actually regressed some of the things I've been doing to focus more on, in terms of upper body work, to focus on range of motion. So my goal now is to gain back range of motion 100%, and then I'll work on strengthening it because that's really what's important is just getting that full extension back. And supination and pronation are super limited. So once I get my range of motion back, I'll be good. But until then, honestly, it's been pretty debilitating. Like I haven't been able to deadlift anything. Um, I haven't been able to press, so it's been tough mentally.
Yeah, well, that's going to be it. It's going to be an all mental battle right now because you're going to respond once you can give max effort again. Like your body's going to respond. It's been there. It's done that. You know, it's going to be mentally like making sure it's good to go and not letting because it's so common injury. Like the upside is you look like you said, this guy tore his bicep 7 times and he's one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
So it's hard to look at it like that, but like the fact that you're still young, you're 7, 8 years, 9 years from being, prime strongman. It's you still have so much in the tank. You just it's one day at a time at this point.
So basically, when anything changes in life, when when you're presented with a new rabbit hole, you have to switch up your lens, switch up your goals, switch up your goals. So it's like, okay, I'm no longer training to get the same result. I'm no longer eating to get the same result. I'm no longer doing anything to get the same result. It's like I have to switch up everything. So it's like, okay, work on like mobility, range of motion, because like maintaining athleticism, like work capacity and things of that nature, which are a lot less fun. But it's kind of like change up your lens and develop new habits that will help you. So when you do come back, you can have some better things in place. So
what piece of advice would you give to someone that is, maybe had a setback, injury wise, maybe in life or whatever it may be, to, I guess, what advice would you give someone that had a setback and is struggling to move forward or struggling to continue going and things like that?
take it day by day. That's what I have to tell myself. One day at a time, one day at a time. Because when you have a setback that big, it means you kind of have to dig yourself out of a little bit of a hole, and it just adds mileage to between you and your end result to the end goal. So if you try and think about all of that at once, especially if you have a big goal that could almost be unfathomable, it's hard to attack that if you look at it all at once. So it's like, okay, don't look at it all at once. Chip away one day at a time, because that's all you can do. So
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think, trying not to overwhelm yourself, putting things in perspective and, realizing like,
for example, people keep asking me, when are you going to get back to competing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't really have any concrete goal like that for myself in terms of time, because I feel like that'll put the wrong type of pressure on me, because
Right.
that can be overwhelming. It's like, okay, I know I have these goals. I know what my goals are. It's just going to be there's no time limit to when they'll be achieved, but I know they'll be achieved. So it's good to have that end goal, but you don't want to try and rush it or force it or try and give yourself some sort of like too soon of a timeline to get there, because when you have a setback, it's like, all right, every you have to be really grateful for everything along the process of getting back to it. So
Yeah. I think that's huge. I mean, it's really creating that mindset. And I guess to flip it on that a little, a couple more questions, and then we'll kind of sum it up. But with this are there things you do daily, mindset wise, to like program your mind? Some people have routines in the morning to kind of set yourself right, because obviously, like you said, it was debilitating. You could easily be like, poor me, spiral down a hole. I'm never going to compete again. I'm never going to do this strong again. But like, obviously, that's just not who you are. But what are some things that you do that, help you kind of keep moving forward and on a daily basis?
good question. So I think there are some things that you can do that are still related to that world, but I also believe strongly that you should do some things totally unrelated to kind of get like a similar release, but from a different modality. For example, for things like still related to them, to like the strongman fitness world, I have breathing exercises, and I'll like do like the take care of yourself, like fascia work and stretch a little bit more. But more so, like I have breathing exercises that I really like that help me. And then in terms of like things non-related, it's like find what else you're passionate for. For me personally, it's like music is one of them. That's why you saw me playing the drums. So it's like I'm listening to different types of music. I'm going to more like local shows and seeing like bands play. That's one thing I've been liking is going to local shows and seeing bands play, because those guys aren't famous and they really love to be there, and they're artists and they got to use their mind and they're passionate about what they do. And it's just like a kind of like a parallel to the whole strongman thing. So it's like for me, I feel the void with music and my butterfly knife flipping, because it's like intrinsic and it really helps my brain find that release, or like maybe podcasts or whatever helps you find that release. Find one or two things that are not related at all, and I think that helps, as well as keeping things that are related.
And I'm sure a big part too is you surround yourself with like a lot of people that are supportive. I mean, that's got to be a big part of it too, like being around the right people, your brother, all these, because if it's a toxic environment to be around, you're not going to be putting yourself in a good situation, especially with a setback.
I couldn't be more grateful for my support team, to be honest. And yeah, between the gym I'm at, MetFit and Natick, it's like a home to me. So many great people there, as well as my parents are my best supporters. My parents are, as well as my brother and my coach, and a couple of like my old homies from like high school even that I check in with. But I have a lot of incredible friends that I like hope I never take for granted, because I'm crazy lucky. So yeah, no, that's really it. But even then, like by yourself, and you have to like process and deal with all that stuff yourself, which is the hardest part. So
Yeah, no, I think that it's interesting. It's interesting, man. I appreciate you just explaining the story, because it's like I think most people look at you, look at your social media, look at this, and they're like, dude's fucking Superman. To understand that there's a deeper side to it, the struggles, what you go through, like the ups and downs, like you're just a normal dude, but like you happen to be really good at what you do.
I happen to be a geek for what I do, and it's crazy because like I haven't deadlifted till November. I can't pick up really anything heavy, and but it's not my first time starting from square one. Injury or no injury, after a big peak for a competition, you always have to start from square one. And life is gonna always change and kick you in the face. Like you'll have people that you think are gonna be your friend, but they're not. They're just like they want to be or like your sport. Like you'll have people who claim to be your supporters, but that will leave you. Like I've had like relationships end because I've been left, because like my dream is just so big with strongman, and it's like you'll face a lot of adversity, but if you just stick to your passion and stick to the end goal, it can't be beat.
Yeah, and that was one of the last questions I had. I have one more after this, but regarding that side of it, right? Like Andy, I just talked to earlier, he talked about at the end of it, what was that?
Poor Andy, keep going.
Yeah, so I'm talking to Andy, and he's like, man, it was tough because he talked a little bit about the haters, the negative people, the people that like bashed him for, especially on social because maybe he was different or wasn't, looked at a certain way. And now the same people, are like want advice. The same people are like, oh man, like, you made it. Like, it's funny how perception changes when you're trying to get started because I'm sure like when you first get started, people second guess it. People are like, what are you doing? All you're doing is strongman. You're never going to make a living, money. And then next thing you know, you're representing the U.S. and you're 23 and under world champ. And like, you're doing things that, maybe a lot of people doubted you. So how did you deal with like the haters? How did you deal with like the negativity?
So a couple things on. First off, I would like to say how it's insane how so try and rip off Andy's material, and he has to deal with so much. Like so many coaches will literally steal his material and not give him credit. It's so he deals with something totally different that I don't have to deal with. Like I give Andy credit for everything that I like prescribe that is his idea, and like I always shout him out for credit, but a lot of people actually rip off his ideas and then like talk like trash like and hate him on the side. So that kid deals with that. Andy deals with a lot, but for me personally, I'll always like no matter what level you get to, you'll have to deal with that, and I still do now. Strongman will never make me money, and I'm like at that point, it's like okay, you're good, but it's still not going to make you money. So what are you going to do to kind of keep it in you? So it's a tough balance, man. You just have to figure out what you're going to do to make it. And if you love the sport enough, you'll find a way. There are other strongmen that I see that like work full-time jobs and they still allow them to compete in their sport and have a family. So it is possible, and a lot of people ask you, and maybe they'll say you just got to trust it.
Trust the process.
That's it.
So last question, man. You go in any direction you want with this. I kind of leave it open-ended. Is if someone came up to you is like, Nick, I'm struggling to find myself. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. What advice would you give someone?
Is this towards somebody who's in the fitness industry already? Like, do it like, or just anybody?
Just anybody. Let's say like you're let's say you got a friend, maybe is struggling, doesn't like his job, doesn't know what he really wants to do, and is maybe struggling and just like, man, I'm miserable. I don't really know what I like. I don't know what I want to do. How did you find, you found something you're passionate about? Is there any type of advice you give him or maybe help him, be like, hey man, this, you got to do A, B, C, or D, or you got to look within yourself or whatever you need to do?
I would say like maybe pay attention to like what you're doing and who you're around when you're happy and like what that means, or maybe even like I'm a huge advocate for fitness. I'm super biased. Find a modality of fitness that you enjoy. It literally can be anything as long as you're kind of like breaking a sweat and like producing like chemical exchange and all that. Find a modality of fitness that you like and just dive into it, because a lot of the times when you're doing something active, your brain's producing these chemicals and these hormones, and it kind of helps you see clearly and think differently. So like for example, a lot of the times I'll have some groundbreaking thoughts and I'll learn a lot about myself when I'm training, which is why I love training so much, because the deeper I dive into it, the more I learn about it. So that's really it. You'll learn more about yourself by kind of breaking past these thresholds of fitness, which is kind of crazy. And it doesn't take anything intense or extreme. Like maybe you just need to go for a run, or like literally whatever it is. But any modality of fitness, because I believe movement is a blessing and a gift, and there's so many benefits. So yeah, that's one thing I'd recommend.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I said very similar. What was that?
Break a sweat.
Yeah.
Break a sweat. Go deadlift a bunch and like, release those like endorphins, and like you'll start thinking clearly, and then like sit down and like. Also, I think spending a lot of time by yourself. I think spending a lot of alone time is great for introspection.
Yeah, and I can't agree more with the fitness side of it, because that's initially when I got into it. Being like a thin, skinny, scrawny, insecure kid, not knowing what I wanted, I always preached the fitness side to it, out of the simple fact that I think a lot of people you have trouble controlling a lot in your life, but the results you get in the gym, aesthetically, strength, whatever it may be, is 100% all on your control. Like no one can take that away from you. Whether what you eat, how much you sleep, how hard you train. Like there's something said about going in, having complete control. All the results are based off of your work ethic, and I think that just translates to the outside world.
Well, it's kind of like there are so many variables in life, period. It's like depressing and overwhelming. It's like, well, I definitely can't control all the variables in life, so whatever you can control, you better own it and be a beast.
Yeah, I get it, man. That's perfect. Cool, dude. So I'm gonna leave it like that. Go be a beast. So cool. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for everything, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It was definitely fun having you on. We'll do another one in the future, and we still got to meet up. We definitely got to meet up either way. So.
We have. Sure, you're in Connecticut now, right?
Yes, I'm 7 minutes from Lightning, so I'm right down the road.
Really?
Yeah.
7 minutes?
Pretty wild. 7 minutes.
Well, I'm not sure if Andy's going to be visiting me next, but if I go visit him, I will let you know.
Yeah, we'll meet up. We'll grab some food, talk some more.
So, that'd be awesome, man.
But yeah, man, thanks for coming on again, and we'll definitely be in touch soon.
Thank you, Jeff. You're the man. I'll talk to you soon.
You're the man.